Have you ever thought of real estate as a professional career? Many people have, and little wonder. It's an exciting, important, and rewarding profession. But the real estate profession is also a demanding one. And that's something few people realize. Over the course of 4 programs, we're going to take a look at just how demanding. And by doing so, help you decide if you're truly suited to a career in real estate. Welcome to the 4th and final program in our series, A Career in Real Estate. I'm your host, David Higgins, and I've been a real estate practitioner and a licensed broker for 22 years. Today, we're going to look at the last 4 stages of a typical real estate transaction. So far, we've examined the listing stage, where the groundwork and ground rules of the transaction are established, the prospecting stage, where potential buyers are located, and the qualifying stage, where the buyer's needs and finances are determined. The final 4 stages are the showing, offer preparation, offer presentation, and follow-up. As in the previous programs, we'll concentrate on the skills, knowledge, and attributes that a real estate professional needs to possess. By the end of today's program, you should have formed a fairly clear idea about your own suitability for the profession. Okay, let's get started with today's agenda. The 4th stage in the real estate transaction is the showing, where you actually take the potential purchasers out to see listed properties. So, how do you go about showing a property? Is there a sequence that needs to be followed? What are the things that you are looking for as a real estate professional? Let's listen to some real estate professionals talk about the art and science of showing property to its best advantage.
To prepare for a showing, the first thing I do is I map out the homes that I'm going to show to try to put them in some kind of order. When I'm showing the purchaser, we're not going all over town. It's going to save both of our time. What I've already done before I take the purchaser out is I've inspected all of the properties I'm going to show him, so that if he has any questions on these properties, that hopefully I'm going to know the answers.
Well, what do you think?
It's a beautiful layout. I especially like the sunken bathtub in the master bedroom. Wonderful. This big closet over here, women love this. The big closet on this floor is very important. And the den, it's very, very nice, especially with that southern exposure.
Yeah, but can I get my price?
I like to meet people at my office. I tell them, first of all, what we're going to see.
Okay, I've got some other places to show you tonight. I think you'll be excited.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Dream home.
I give them printouts of the listings so that they've got a running commentary. They've got the taxes, the assessment, they've got the lot dimensions in print. So as they're going through houses, they may have questions. They may be on the listing if for some reason I can't answer it. But it also gives them a record of what they've seen to put in a file and, review as they sit down and mull their decisions over.
I like to have them in my car and not for any particular reason other than that it gives us a chance to talk as we're going from property to property, discussing the houses that we've seen, talking about the good points, the bad points. When we walk into a property, I like to lead them into the property. I always like to show properties via the front door, start pointing out different things, whether it be fireplaces or hardwood floors or colonial trim or swirl ceilings or things like that. On the other hand, when I'm showing a property, I always make it a point, and I have always done this, is that if I see a problem in the property, I draw their attention to it immediately. I don't try and cover it up. If the kitchen cupboards need to be replaced, I say to them, in the future, you would probably like to change these kitchen cupboards. These are an old kitchen cupboard. They do not have to be changed immediately, but you would probably like to think about that.
I would make sure that I was showing them properties in an area that they thought they liked. I would show them as many different styles of houses as I could, because they're not going to like all of them.
Well, I gather that one wasn't the house for you.
No.
Oh, that's okay. There's another one just down the street that maybe will be more to your liking. Why don't we go have a look at it?
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. Great.
So you might as well know what they don't like first, so you can eliminate those, and then when you start honing in, the process becomes simpler.
The clues that are given when you're showing properties from purchasers are sometimes subtle, but it's crucial that you become an expert in recognizing these clues. Your livelihood depends on it.
Buying signs? Well, the best one is when they mentally are moving their furniture into the living room and saying the couch would look great here. Then you know that they're interested in the property and they're seriously considering making it their home.
You like the sunken bathtub?
Oh, definitely.
It's great,
Selling
isn't
food,
it?
isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I like this room too. I like it a lot.
We could put the bed over there.
Sure. Yeah? The dresser over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good size then for you, this master bedroom?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
It's perfect.
Did you check out the walk-in closet?
Oh, perfect.
It's a good size.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's go look out here.
You guys see the other bedrooms?
Another buying sign, interestingly enough, is talking about the things that are wrong with the house, the negatives about the house.
Quite often a buying sign is a lot of criticism about the property because they're looking at the negative features and deciding if the positives outweigh the negatives. If someone walks through a house very quickly and says, that was a beautiful home, that probably isn't a buying sign because they didn't look at it close enough.
I think Elizabeth would like it, and it's a good size for her.
Good mudroom.
Oh, the shelves are
Alright.
nice and sturdy. And look, you could put a lot of hangers in here too.
Needs a new color.
Well, the walls, yeah, I have to admit. The washroom says right?
That's right.
Okay.
This is just the downstairs washroom. There's 2 more washrooms upstairs, remember?
Right.
It's a small one.
Yeah, it is kind of.
It's
Nice
fine.
hot water though.
It's okay.
Okay.
We can look down over here at the kitchen if you like.
Right.
And really that's what you want them to do, because if a purchaser will never tell you what it is that troubles them, then you're never going to know what not to show them the next time. So to me, that's a really important buying sign.
They will start asking about taxes. They will start asking about heat bills. They will start asking about, if we put down X number of dollars on this property, Hugh, what would we be looking at as far as payments are concerned?
Clues that purchasers drop when going through homes are dealt with more effectively with experience. I remember when I first started in real estate, I wasn't picking up on those clues, and after talking to other sales reps that I worked with, and by experience, you get to be better at it. It's part of the art of real estate is to recognize these verbal clues that are given to you and ask for an offer when you get these clues.
That's the showing stage. And once again, what we heard emphasized was the importance of being a good communicator and a good listener. As well, the success of the showing depends on your knowledge of the property and of the purchaser's needs. In other words, you need to be organized and you need to have done your homework. Now, let's assume that everything has gone according to form. The purchasers have confidence in your knowledge and abilities, and you have qualified their needs and their finances. So one of the properties you show them should be the property they decide to purchase. Which brings us to the offer stage, where you obtain and then draw up the offer. Offers can be negotiated anytime and anywhere. In the purchaser's home, in a coffee shop, but more often than not at your office. Now, most real estate brokers have a special room, like this one here, set aside for just that purpose. But location aside, the important thing for you to understand is that it's going to be up to you to ask for the offer and then guide the purchasers through what can be a very emotional time.
Getting a buyer to commit to paper is interesting, to say the least. Sometimes they just tell you, fine, this is the house I like, let's go back to the office and draw up an offer. That's what everybody likes to hear. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you actually have to ask for the offer.
Very rarely when you're showing property is a purchaser going to come out and volunteer an offer. You're going to have to look for the subtle clues that they give you and ask for the offer. And timing is crucial, and through experience, you'll learn when the right time is to ask for that offer.
Getting them over that final hurdle is sometimes a little bit difficult. Sometimes if you can understand what it is that's stopping them, very often it's the finances. So if you haven't been specific enough in your qualifying process, then it might be exactly the time to go over that again. So you sit down with them and you say, all right, here's what it's going to cost you month to month for your mortgage. You can estimate the heat, you know what the taxes are, the various costs that they're going to have, and give it to them in black and white so that they can actually know what it is that they're going to be paying. That way they're comfortable with it. They're not thinking about what it might be and all the things they haven't thought about. And it's easier for people to say no than yes. So the more facts you can give them, the easier it is for them to make the decision.
During the time of writing the offer is suddenly where you feel that you're putting your different hat on. You've been working with these purchasers, you've certainly not misrepresented the property, and you've been very fair with them throughout the process. All of a sudden, at the time of the offer writing, it becomes very apparent, though, that you are working for the vendor and you're trying to get the best possible deal for the vendor and not this purchaser who you know very well. So as you're going through the offer and the purchaser may make a statement, it is up to you to draw more information out and propose the vendor's viewpoint during the drawing of the offer.
The vendor of this property, he may have certain needs and responsibilities too. He may need a closing date within 60 days at that particular time, but that's a negotiating point at that time, and you try and make them aware of the fact that you may have to negotiate the closing date.
I just can't get past it. If we're not in until January 15th, daycare would have started already.
See, you have to understand, it's very hard for kids that age to not only start new daycare, but to arrive late. Even if it's only a couple of weeks, the rest of the kids will all have formed their own little groups.
I do understand. And I'm sure that even the owner would understand. The thing is that he's got his own agenda here, and in this situation, basically, he's in the driver's seat.
Maybe if you...
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, that's okay. You remember my broker, Madeline Smythe?
I just wanted to say I'm on my way, so you'll be the last one out, so don't forget to lock up.
No problem. I'm getting used to the routine.
How are things going?
Well, other than the fact that we're 4 weeks apart on our closing date, it's going pretty well.
Ooh.
The situation is this. The Lees would like to move in December the 15th, but the owner can't be out until January the 15th.
Which doesn't help us getting settled and really hurts our daughter starting her new daycare.
The owner can't budge?
Adamant.
Wow, I don't know what to tell you. There are a lot of things that are negotiable, but the closing date is rarely one of them. I see you're offering less than money than he's asking for. I'm sure Liz has told you that your offer will be far more attractive if you can agree to his closing date.
Would your finances allow you to move into a hotel?
Oh, we've already given notice. That would leave us without a place to stay for a month.
Okay. How about this?
Every offer to purchase has its unique points to it. Every purchaser and every vendor have the unique things that they want in or out of an offer.
You have to be very detailed when you're drawing up an offer for the purchaser on a property that you showed him, because you don't want to have any problems later on. You want to make sure that there's a full understanding of the purchaser of what's going to be included in the house, what's going to be excluded on the property, all the different clauses that are going to be put in to protect both the buyer and the seller. You're going to want to talk about pricing.
You may have to negotiate the price. Just because we make the offer at X number of dollars does not necessarily mean that that's going to be what the vendor is looking for or what he will be comfortable with.
You're going to want to talk about the closing date, and you want to make sure that there's absolutely no misunderstanding at this time, because it's only going to lead to problems later on.
The process is slow. If you rush an offer, there's a good chance you'll make mistakes. So it's best to take your time and do it properly. Unfortunately, that's when your enthusiasm is at its highest and you want to rush through it. Good advice is just to slow down, take your breath, and go through it point at a time.
Preparing the offer is in many respects like preparing the listing. You need to apply research skills. You are filling out a detailed agreement, so your English comprehension and legal knowledge come into play. You're also counseling, in this case, the purchasers, so the leadership skills have to be there. You also need something we haven't seen before, negotiating skills. Though negotiating really is just another facet of what we've been calling people skills. Knowing when to talk, knowing when to listen, knowing when to give and when to take, all of which brings us to the sixth stage in the transaction, presenting the offer. This is yet another critical juncture in the life of a real estate transaction. Hundreds of hours may have gone into the transaction so far, but it all comes down to this. Will the vendor like the offer? If you've done your work properly, the answer should be yes, but you still need to come prepared.
The offer presentation is the climax to all the work that you've put into showing the purchaser properties. You've finally been given the signal that that's the property they want to buy. You've went back to your office. You've drafted up an offer. Now it's offer time, and you're presenting the offer to the seller, trying to explain exactly what the benefits there are to the seller of the offer, and it's not even just what's in the offer, it's how you present the offer and your skills at negotiating that are important.
When I go in and make a presentation, I make sure that I have the answers to the questions that are going to be answered. They're going to want to know what my purchaser does for a living, if there's a condition on financing. And I believe that they're entitled, the vendor's entitled to know that. So you have to make sure that you have the answers to typical questions. If your offer is what your purchaser believes to be realistic, you may go in with market information to show your vendor why the purchaser has made an offer in that price range.
During the offer presentation, my job is to explain the offer to the seller, looking at both all the positive aspects of the offer and the negative aspects. There's rarely any offers that are completely negative or completely positive, so we try to look at any negatives there may be in the offer and see if there's some way we can negotiate around those negatives and make the offer acceptable for the vendor.
Vendors get very emotional on a presentation. I remember I had a vendor actually hyperventilate, and he fainted right on the kitchen floor in the middle of the presentation. That was one of my first experiences with selling a house.
The real estate professional has to recognize that during an offer presentation, they're not just selling a house. They're selling someone's home. And with that sale, the vendor may feel that when they walk out of the home, they're also walking away from some memories.
Often the situation that you'll deal with when you're selling a house is one where the vendors are divorcing, separating, whatever it happens to be. And when it comes to presentation time, it is a very emotional time for these people.
I understand how you feel. Your ex-wife told me the price that you had agreed on an hour before she signed this.
If she thinks I'm going to agree to this, she's sadly mistaken. Damn it! We agreed to a minimum price, and this isn't it! What right does she think you have to accept this offer?
Well, there are some other considerations.
What other considerations? This is the only consideration.
Not necessarily. Take a look at the terms of the offer, for example. Now, there's still some financing to work out, but once that's done, the whole thing becomes unconditional, which means a transaction can close very quickly. Now, in addition, if you'll notice there, the closing date exactly meets your requirements as well. Now, I think that your ex-wife is looking forward to how quickly this can all be over as a big factor as well.
I don't know. maybe, just maybe, she has a point. Which would be the first time in 30 years. I don't, just let me think about it. Just give me a minute here.
Take your time. There's no rush here. But in the meantime, why don't we have a look at some of the other points? We can come back to this issue in just a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Now, as I remember, there are no conditions attached to this.
It's important for you as a real estate salesperson to be sensitive to what is going on. Very often you'll find that the people start to deal with issues that really are not involved around the transaction. So it's necessary for you to be able to bring them back to focus and to keep them on track about what's going on at the table.
Vendors will often be all right too as you're going through the details of the offer, and then a salesperson may have included the shears or the blinds and the curtains, and suddenly you're talking about somebody's stuff. You're not just talking about the house anymore. And that's when the floodgates may open and there's a whole emotional atmosphere put in. It's how you read people that you'll know whether to step back or step into that discussion. But perhaps getting up, letting them make a cup of coffee, or you walking out and giving them a chance to compose themselves would be appropriate at that time.
During the offer presentation, there's certain situations where the vendor is under pressure to sell. There might be a lot of emotion involved, and what I try to do is I try to eliminate as much as possible this emotion from the transaction, and we try to look at what the ultimate goal of the vendor is, why he has to sell his property, what the objective is, and to try to look at it logically rather than emotionally. So let's take an offer, and rather than get emotional about it, let's make some logical decisions.
You need to be in charge of this, take control of it, and run it through as a very simple, normal process, and take all the ups and downs out of it. It's a great time. It's what they want to do, and that's what you have to focus on.
Sometimes offers are not accepted. However, the more prepared you are, the less likely that is to happen. Before you present an offer, you have to do your homework. And, as we've just heard, that means you have to have done all the groundwork and paperwork, be familiar with all of the terms of the offer to be able to explain exactly what the offer is and what it includes, and have the patience and professionalism to lead the vendor through what can be an emotionally trying time. So after all of that work, if you have been able to meet the needs of both the vendor and the purchaser, you will have done it. You'll have made a successful sale. Now, it would seem at this point, after all of that work, that your job is over. Well, almost, but not quite. There's still one more stage, what I call follow-up. And that's completing all of the paperwork, routine filing, and transferring of forms and agreements. Once the agreement is signed and copies delivered to all parties, it's time to deal with your own files. That involves a little legwork and a lot of paperwork. To begin with, you need to complete a trade record sheet for the transaction. Deliver copies of the agreement of purchase and sale to the solicitor for each party. If the agreement is conditional, then you have to maintain contact with all parties involved until the condition is satisfied, and assist in any way possible to ensure that all the conditions are met. For example, you may have to renegotiate for an extension of the time limit originally set for a particular condition, or negotiate other amendments to the original agreement of purchase and sale. In short, the transaction isn't over until the purchasers are safely in their new home. So that, in its most basic form, is the essence of a real estate transaction. 7 stages from start to finish: listing, prospecting, qualifying, showing, offer preparation, offer presentation, and the follow-up. 7 stages that, if carried out in a professional manner, should result in a successful sale. However, there's one other thing that you need to bear in mind. As a real estate professional, you might be involved in a dozen or more such transactions at one time, which is why we've stressed the fact, beginning in Program 1, that real estate is a demanding career and not for everyone. We also stated in Program 1 that our intention was to provide you with the information and insight you need to judge for yourself whether real estate is the career for you. I think each of the 4 programs have demonstrated the various skills and abilities that you'll need to develop. That list of skills would include research, computers, negotiating, interviewing, problem solving, organization and planning, leadership, English comprehension, and a high level of math proficiency. Each program also revealed a different facet of the kind of person you have to be. You need to be a good communicator, a good listener, have a positive attitude, be a self-starter, be creative, and above all, you have to be good with people. I also like to look at it another way. Being a real estate professional is not just one occupation, but the sum of many occupations. You need to be part lawyer, part financier, part manager, part public relations expert, and above all, organized, dedicated, loyal, and driven. Are you that person? If so, you may be suited to a career in real estate.